Gentlemen, the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement will please come to order. It's Saturday, May 17th, 2025. It is 6:50 p.m. We are in room 123 of the state capitol. Thank you all for arriving. A quorum is present. Members, the agenda is before you. I'm changing the order slightly in order to allow the discussion on the amendment 12A to be at the end of our pension hearing. With that, the first item on the agenda is approval of the April 22nd, 2025 minutes. Representative Lilly, would you be willing to offer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm willing to move the minutes for that meeting. Thank you, sir.
Representative Lilly moves the adoption of the April 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The amendment is approved and the minutes are adopted. The second item on the agenda is the 2025 Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill, Senate File 2884, House File 1889, Representatives O'Driscoll and Lilly and Senator Frentz. Members, we have the DE1, we have the 13A, we have the 5A, and we're going to have Ms. Lincheski start by going through the DE1. These are bills, of course, that have already been heard by LCPR and passed and incorporated into the bill. But as we're going to send it out of here tonight, we're going to have Ms. Lincheski give a brief walkthrough. Ms. Lincheski.
Thank you, Chair Frentz. Susan Lincheski, Executive Director of the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement. In your materials, you are well papered with summaries for this DE1. There's a source bill list, as well as a section by section and a general summary. I'll walk through this very quickly. This has been actually on the website for some time, several weeks, so I'll move quickly. Article 1 increases the multiplier used to calculate the retirement annuity for members of the MSRS general plan from 1.7% to 1.9% of pay. That is effective prospectively. Article 1, sections 2 and 3 make administrative changes. Article 1, section 4 increases the COLA from 1.5 to 1.75 for the MSRS general plan, legislators plan, and unclassified plan. Article 2 makes administrative changes to para statutes. Article 2, sections 6 and 9 increase the COLA for para. The para general plan from 1.5 to 1.75. Article 3 makes administrative changes to the statutes that govern the para defined contribution plan. Article 4 makes changes, really substantial changes to the chapter on privatization. It also provides a new method for determining withdrawal liability, which is what needs to be paid when a entity goes from governmental to non-governmental. Article 5 is the product of the MSRS Correctional Eligibility Work Group. It refines the list of employment positions and adds to it, also revises the process for adding employment positions and employees to that plan. Article 6 increases the limit on employer matching contributions in the Higher Education Supplemental Retirement Plan over at Minnesota State. Article 7 is the product of the State Auditors Fire Relief Association Working Group. It makes administrative changes to those statutes that govern relief associations. Article 8 also makes a change to the Firefighters Relief Association chapter by increasing the maximum lump sum pension amount from $15,000 to $20,000. Article 8 is my favorite. It repeals the requirement that fire reliefs report annually on recipients of business investment information. Article 9 deals with secure choice. It makes administrative changes. It requires deed to share contact information and adds penalties. Article 10 is a product of the Harmonization Work Group. It is legislation recommended by that group, and it adds a new method for determining the amortization period for various benefit changes. This is layered amortization. And Article 10 finally provides some fixes for the section that requires reporting of errors that are corrected by the plans. That's my very quick summary.
Well, thank you, Ms. Lincheski. Members, as the chair is offering the DE1 amendments. We have, again, a number of amendments you can see on the agenda. Let's go first to any discussion on the DE1 before we vote. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was wondering if you could just lay out the plan for the pension bill and just the timing, especially as we're looking at the final days of the 2025 regular session.
Sure. Thank you, Senator Rasmussen and members. We are planning to pass it out tonight. The Senate Finance Committee is waiting to hear it on the Senate side. I'm going to let Representative Lillian O'Driscoll talk about the House side, but our hope would be that it would be on the Senate floor, sending over to the House for concurrence. Obviously, we have to play this out, have the hearing tonight, have finance, and the House is the other body. So that would be the plan on the Senate side, Senator Rasmussen. I'll go to Representative Lillian, Representative O'Driscoll, or if you have more comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so when would you anticipate a potential bill being on the Senate floor?
Well, I have told Senator Marty that I thought we might be able to get out of here within 45 minutes to an hour. I don't mean to stifle discussion, but if that were true, we would be able to get it to finance tonight. If that's true, it's up to Senator Murphy, but it would be possible for it to be heard tomorrow or Monday on the Senate floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess one of the concerns I have is that let's say that all that timing worked out and this bill were on the Senate floor tomorrow and it passed the Senate floor. Even if the House waited to receive that bill and gave it its first reading, we would run out of days to actually pass the pension bill, given the constitutional requirements. And so I'm trying to figure out what the plan would be here on regular session, because I think just given the timing, this is something that would have to be taken up in a special session, unless I'm missing something, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen and members. Our plan is to pass it out of pensions tonight. Again, don't want to speak for the House. And I'm not saying that it would be sent over, and leadership just being slightly above my head on that particular issue. I'm going to defer to Senator Murphy for the Senate side of it. Let's go now to Representative Lilly and Representative O'Driscoll. Either one of you want to take a bite at that apple? Representative O'Driscoll.
Representative Lilly and I are actually meeting with the co-chairs of the Ways and Means Committee earlier this afternoon, and that topic did not come up in discussion.
Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative or Senator Rasmussen, sorry to demote you. So I believe the intent is to bring it up in Ways and Means tomorrow and to have discussion and to progress the bill as quickly and smoothly as we can. So I think towards the end, we can work with timelines and deadlines and accelerate things.
Thank you, Representative Lilly. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just, we have constitutional requirement that a bill is read 3 times on 3 separate days in each body. And I just don't see how this bill could meet that constitutional requirement, even if everything clicks like has been described. And so I'm still a little confused as to the plan, but just wanted to ask a question to see if I'm missing something.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Further comments to the DE1? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the DE1, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The DE1 is adopted. Members, we're now going to go to what I'm guessing a number of people are here for tonight, which is the 13A amendment. This is the benefit improvement for public safety and teachers. Thank you to everyone who's worked on this on both sides of the aisle and in both chambers. Let's do this. Let's have Ms. Wilson walk through the amendment first. I'm also suggesting that we have a representative from Senate Fiscal walk through the spreadsheet briefly. With that, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Friends. Alina Wilson, analyst for the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement. The 13A amendment applies to the MSRS State Patrol Retirement Plan, the PERA Police and Fire Plan, and TRA. Going into sort of the benefit increases, direct state aid and appropriations. As you'll see at the very top of the amendment, all benefit increases enacted in 2025 for MSRS State Patrol, Para Police and Fire, and TRA must be amortized over a period that ends June 30th, 2048. So that means as I walk through these benefit increases next, we're looking at a 2048 amortization date. For Para Police and Fire, the 13A decreases the COLA delay by 1 year. It increases the COLA to 3% just for 1 calendar year in 2026. The COLA is then 1% in 2027 and thereafter. And it provides direct state aid in the amount of $17.7 million annually. Moving on to MSRS State Patrol, the amendment increases the COLA to 1.25%. and provides direct state aid in the amount of 2.3 million annually. And lastly, for TRA, we have an increase to the pension adjustment revenue and employer contributions by 0.31%, which are funded through appropriations. As far as the benefit increases, we lower the age for the enhanced early retirement reduction from 62 to 60 and lower the reduction percentage from 6% to 5%. It also deletes all the exceptions to the COLA delay. So there would be a COLA delay for all TRA members. And as I just noted, there are appropriations, which I will let Eric Nauman go over those numbers, which are the second page in your summary.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson, and members, you should have the spreadsheet. We're going to have Eric Nauman, our Chief Fiscal Analyst in the Senate, come forward. Mr. Nauman, thank you for taking a few minutes from your busy schedule. If you could please introduce yourself and walk through the spreadsheet.
Mr. Chair and members, thank you. It's good to see all of you. It's, I think, one of the first times I've sat in this position with the Pension Commission, so it's a pleasure to be here. In the second page of your packet, accompanying the A13 is a colorful spreadsheet with a yellow band across the top dated 11:39 p.m. from last night. And the purpose here is to track the expenses that would be added into the bill so that members can all see what is happening. I'll make page references to the A13 amendment where appropriate. So as Ms. Wilson spoke already, there are two direct aid payments for the public safety plans on line 3.15 of the amendment. You will see the $17.7 million appropriation for public employees, police and fire retirement plan. And then on line 3.5 of that same amendment, line 4 of the tracking, $2.3 million annually for the State Patrol Retirement Fund. And one of the dynamics, skipping down to the TRA changes, is that there are a number of members in state agencies that are TRA members. I like to express my appreciation to MMB, who spent a good portion of last night working through this math with us, and that that'll enabled us on lines 7 through 10 to score the contribution prices for the Department of Education, the state academies, Perpich, and Minskew, based on the members that we are aware of, and what the bill itself requires the employer to make contributions, and the decision that is being made through the A13 amendment is to pay the state agencies for those expenses. Then on line 12 of the spreadsheet, on line 4.19 of the amendment and 11.18 of the amendment is an adjustment to the pension adjustment formula in the K-12 space. This does two things. One, it adjusts the formula, which is metered out on the typical 90-10 K-12 payment mechanism. There's about 26 payments throughout the year. As the employers, in this case, are the school districts, a decision with this amendment is being made to provide resources to the school districts to make those contributions. $17 million in fiscal 26 and 19.7 in the tails. I know a question has arisen, why is it far lower in the first year? And that's because we only pay, as a state, when you make a change to the general education program, you're only giving 90% upfront. And then the lagging payment comes in the subsequent year. A key point here is, of course, the employer will make the payment all at once. It's just the state is making the payment to the school districts on that 90-10 payment schedule. Then, as was discussed in Ms. Linczewski's walkthrough earlier, there are some adjustments to the legislator's retirement plan reflecting some COLA's adjustments. And there are a few legislative members that are still active that have there are expenses associated with that, very few. And there are some appropriations for that, but this is an open appropriation, so you won't find it in the bill. In total, and consistent with the leadership agreement, there's $80 million in each in the global budget agreement in each biennium. The math works out to be 77.992 in the first biennium and a touch over in the tails, $80.6 million in fiscal years 28 and 29. Mr. Chair, if there are questions, I'm happy to entertain them, but I know you have a full agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Nauman. I don't know if members have questions for Mr. Nauman. Seeing none, thank you very much. I know how busy you are. Members' discussion to the DE1. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was wondering, in the A13, we have impacts on para, police and fire. And so I was wondering if we could have Doug Anderson from para just come up to answer some questions.
Members, any concern about that? Seeing none, Mr. Anderson, you want to come up for a couple minutes? Senator Rasmussen, I'm going to turn the mic over to you in a second. We did post this as no live testimony, so they twisted my arm to get Mr. Nauman's testimony. We're bending that rule a little. It's not so much that I object to human beings testifying as to our schedule. Senator Rasmussen, I see Mr. Anderson up there. Mr. Anderson, welcome back to the LCPR. You can introduce yourself or you can ask a question and then he can introduce himself. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, for the impacts that are made to para in this A13, which I think was posted at some point today, just wanted to make sure that the para board is supportive of this. And then just also wanted to ask, are all the benefit increases that are in the A13 related to para, are they all paid for by the appropriation that's in the spreadsheet?
Mr. Anderson. First, you should introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I'm Doug Anderson, Executive Director for para. Mr. Chair, Senator Rasmussen, the benefit increases would require the amount funded to increase by 3% a year to fully fund the benefit. These benefit amounts are not increasing 3% a year, so it's not entirely funded, but the vast majority, so about 80% of the benefit is funded from this appropriation.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Anderson. And what will be your contribution sufficiency if these changes are adopted and it goes into law?
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chair, Senator Rasmussen, currently there is not a funding sufficiency in the police and fire plan. So with this change, there still would be no funding sufficiency or deficiency. The plan is currently projected to remain at 90% funded over time. With this change, there's an increase in the liability and there's an increase in the funding. The projection would be slightly less than what we currently would have, since it's not a entirely fully funded benefit. So there'd be a little bit of decline, which would result in the plan may not either increase at the rate we would expect, or it would decline a little bit worse if the assumptions aren't met than what we originally expected.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Anderson. That's the only questions I had for para, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator, for that. Further questions for Mr. Anderson or perhaps Senator Nelson? Not a question for Mr. Anderson. Either way, Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this might sound a little disjointed, but I just want to get a little bit of clarification, maybe from our staff or from our testifier. I noticed when we were approving the agenda items that we approved changes to actuarial assumptions for para. We approved 2 of those actuarial assumption changes to para. And I just want to know how that actuarial change or that actuarial assumption affects or would affect the funding in the plan and how this the 13A amendment relates to that. In other words, would we be looking at something different in the 13A amendment if we had not changed the actuarial assumption?
Thank you, Senator Nelson. It's an excellent question. Members, just to be clear, we're on the DE1 now, but I think the question's appropriate. So Mr. Anderson, if you could answer understanding which amendment we're on. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Senator Nelson, the assumption changes that are in this bill are based on an experience study.
Okay.
And so when everything that we did reflecting the cost requirement for this benefit change was based on assumptions, assuming that those experience study changes would be adopted.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you so much. That's what I was hoping to hear. And I think it's important that that's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Further commentary, again, members, we're on the DE one. Senator Howe.
Just want to make the correction. We're not on the one, we're on the 13A, correct?
I'm sorry, we're on the 13A. Why am I keep saying that then, Senator Howe?
Mr. Chair.
We're on the A13, which is the big ticket retail here. The whole reason we're here. We're not on the DE one. We already adopted that. All right, Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'd like to move the A13.
Senator
Goes forward.
Rasmussen moves the A13.
And then, Mr. Chair, I'd like to divide the amendment between pages 3 and 4 and offer the first portion first.
All right, Senator Rasmussen is making a motion to divide the amendment. I ask the staff to report the amendment, the division. Ms. Linchewski.
So Senator Rasmussen just moved to have one amendment be the first 3 pages and the second amendment be the rest of the A13.
Senator Rasmussen, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So
The motion to divide.
yeah, I think, Mr. Chair, I can just divide the amendment. And then I think how it works is I then get to select which portion goes first.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd move the first 3 pages first as an amendment.
Do we want to describe that, Ms. Linchewski, the first 3 pages?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Frantz and Senator Rasmussen. The first 3 pages deal only with the public safety benefit changes. So they are the, let's see, the increase in the, let's see, we are doing the change. You know what, actually, I would defer to Ms. Wilson if I could. She has.
Ms.
been
Wilson.
working on this.
All right, so the first 3 pages are the reducing the COLA delay by 1 year. That is lines 1.12 to 1.32, lines 2.1 to 2.21, increase the COLA for the state patrol plan to 1.25%. And lines 2.22 to lines 3.2 provide the one-time COLA increase for the para police and fire plan. And so Senator Rasmussen's motion was to have the amendment be lines 1.1 to 5.1.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Let's call that the first half.
Sorry, that was incorrect.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Senator Rasmussen, you're okay if we call that the first half of the amendment relating to public safety?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair. And I believe it's just the first 3 pages of the A13. Part 1. And so, Mr. Chair, I'd move the first portion of the divided amendment and just open it up on the para changes if there's any member debate, discussion, or questions on that piece.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Members debate or discussion on the first half of the amendment as divided. Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the first half, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The first, the amendment is adopted. The second half of the amendment, Senator Rasmussen, let's have Ms. Wilson read it and describe it first. Ms.
Thank you, Mr.
Wilson.
Chair.
Thank you, Chair Frantz. The second half or the second amendment would start on 4.1 and go all the way to lines 11.28. Again, these are all of the provisions that apply to TRA. And so it would lower the age for the enhanced early retirement reduction from 62 to 60, lowers the reduction percentage from 6% to 5%, deletes all the exemptions to the COLA delay, and then appropriates money and provides direct state aid.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Discussion to the second half of the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor,
Mr. Chair.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was wondering if we have a representative from TRA here who could come and speak
I'm
to
fine with that.
this proposal. Thank you.
We have some representatives of TRA. Mr. Mauer. Mr. Mauer, if you could come forward. Hang on a sec, Mr. Mauer. First of all, members, if any member of the LCPR had confusion about their vote, we divided the amendment and then voted half of it on. So if there's a request to reconsider, that's fine. The motion was successful. The amendment for public safety improvements was adopted. We're now going to talk for a minute with TRA and then take a vote on the TRA portion. So seeing nobody raising a ruckus over that, we're now going to go to TRA, and I believe Senator Rasmussen, you want to ask a couple questions? We're hoping for 2 or 3 minutes to go through. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mauer, for coming up. I appreciate it. And I was wondering, Mr. Mauer, if you just wanted to talk about in this proposal, how much aid TRA is receiving in this bill?
Mr. Mauer, if you could start by introducing yourself and then responding to Senator Rasmussen's question.
Certainly. My name is Tim Mauer. I'm the Executive Director with the Teachers Retirement Association, Chair and Senator Rasmussen. Yep, I'd be happy to speak to that. As far as the funding of the proposal itself, in total, the total cost of the benefit improvement as a percentage of payroll is 0.57%. That equates to a cost of about $37 million per year. The state contribution that we have as a representation of 0.31% of pay is equivalent to $20 million per year. Therefore, we would be looking at a remaining cost that would need to be absorbed by the fund of $17 million a year, approximately 0.26% of pay. As of July 1st of this year, TRA will have a market value sufficiency, contribution sufficiency of 0.51%. So the sufficiency would be essentially taking on the additional 0.2 or, that 0.26% of pay, and then be sitting as a contribution sufficiency of 0.25 instead of 0.51.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mauer. So if I understand it correctly, the benefit improvements that are in front of us have a cost of about $37 million per year, but the aid you're getting in terms of additional cash coming in is only $20 million additional dollars per year. So there's a $17 million gap every year that effectively the plan is just kind of taking a hit on, that will have to get paid for in some way and in some form in the future. Is it my understanding that correctly?
Mr. Mauer.
Yeah, yes, thanks, Chair. Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. The way we, our board looked at this is that, again, we said we have a contribution sufficiency as of July 1, a market value sufficiency of 0.51%. So as a percentage of payroll, we're taking in, when we're paying off our unfunded liabilities and we're pre-funding our benefits, we are taking in an additional 0.51. They were comfortable in their role as saying that we would be able to essentially spend 0.26 for that because of percent of payroll on this increased benefit, because we would still maintain a 0.25% sufficiency in our funding, or in our contribution rate.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Mr.
And
Mauer,
Senator Pappas. Senator Rasmussen.
what's your current contribution sufficiency, and what's your funded ratio for your plan right now?
Our current we have additional contribution rates that are going to be coming into play on July 1st of 2025. We have an additional 0.75 on the employer side and an additional 0.25 that'll be coming in on the employee. When those contribution rates hit, we'll have an ultimate contribution rate sufficiency of 0.51, and our funding ratio on a market value is about 83%.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mauer. That wasn't the question I asked. The question I asked
I'm
is
sorry.
what's your current
As we-
contribution sufficiency today?
As we sit today,
And your fully funded ratio. And then just as a follow-up, because I know you're talking about how the employee and employer contributions are going up, wasn't that used to fund a previous benefit change?
oh, okay. So as it sits today, without that, we have a market value deficiency of 0.49. So that's where we come up with an ultimate rate of a positive 0.51 when the new contribution rates kick in. And those rate increases were brought in as part of the 2023 legislation, where we changed the normal retirement age from 66 to 65.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mauer. So I want to understand, because I was here in 2023 and, we had the change on the normal retirement age from 66 to 65. And we had the changes in employer and employee contributions. And I thought that change in the employee and employer contributions were to fund the changes in 2023. And I just want to make sure see if I'm understanding that correctly. If that was a part of the math that was presented here in 2023, to help fund that benefit increase then?
Yeah, those contribution rate increases were, yeah, definitely to help fund the change in the normal retirement age. However, we have more than we need to fund that at this point because we are running a sufficiency.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Mauer, as a follow-up, here's kind of, and feel free to disagree with me, Mr. Mauer, but it kind of seems like we're spending the same money twice and still falling short. And I guess my concern would be back in 2023, that benefit increase wasn't fully paid for either. Part of the way to pay for it was by kicking out the amortization date for TRA by 5 years, which then the Pension Commission reversed in 2024. And then now it kind of sounds like you're presenting that we're going to use that same employee and employer increase to now pay for yet another benefit increase. And so I guess, Mr. Chair, I'm just, I want to make sure that we can fund this proposal and that we're not creating issues for our retirees, our current teachers, our future teachers. And I just worry that we kind of keep on having funny math when it comes to some of these proposals. And it sounds like we're spending the same money twice and still falling short. And I don't want to shortchange Minnesota's teachers. I want to make sure that they have a healthy plan, that the benefits we promise are there. And I guess I'm just concerned, Mr. Chair, that we have a plan today that has a contribution deficiency that's a little over 70% funded. And we have a proposal in front of us that would put an additional $17 million per year hole in that plan going on forever. So I guess I'll defer to other members as we talk, but I just wanted to put that out there. I just don't want to shortchange Minnesota's teachers by not fully funding this benefit.
Well, I assure you, Senator Rasmussen, we're here tonight to make sure we do not shortchange Minnesota's teachers. And of course, Mr. Mauer, thank you for your patience. You were here in 2023. And since that time, we have seen 2 years of investment returns. But more to the point, I have a question, Mr. Mauer. Did the TRA board, balancing the interest of the teachers with the interest of the fiscal health of the fund, make a decision whether or not to support this benefit improvement given the sufficiency? And if so, what was that vote?
Yeah, they voted to support this. We had a special board meeting yesterday and we covered all of the impacts, the cost, the actual impact on benefits. And there was a vote whether to, to give the staff the, authority to go forward and support this bill. The vote was 5 yeses, 1 no, and 2 abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Rasmussen, you're good for now? Thank you. We have Senator Pappas, then Representative Neto, and then Senator Nelson. So we're going to Senator Pappas. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Mauer, Director Mauer. I know you've only been here for a few months, so appreciate you being putting up with us. But TRA has always been a plan that I've worried about and has struggled a little bit. So do you, historically you weren't here, but do you know when the plan first actually started having a sufficiency?
Mr. Mauer.
Sufficiency? Oh, excuse me. Sorry, Chair. And Senator Pappas, the contribution sufficiency ratio as a percentage of payroll has fluctuated over time. We've had a few years ago, we had a very large market return assumption, or it was like a 28% year, and we had a sufficiency, I believe, in that year. Then we had a negative year following that, or less than, our earnings assumption. So I think the sufficiency changed. Then I'd have to go back and look at it on a year over year. We present that information every year to our board. But like I said, as we sit right now, that's where I look at it more as a point of a place in time of where we're at when you look at spending the money, rather than looking at it as we're trying to spend money we got 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or you're looking back. As we sit today, it's more of a place in time. And as we sit here today, and as we look at the rates coming in on July 1st, and we look at that, what they do to our contribution sufficiency, that's the framework our board was looking at. Where are we going to be at on July 1st, essentially with this having an effective date of June 30th. And on July 1st, we are going to be sitting in a position where we have a 0.51% contribution sufficiency, and this bill would take 0.26 of that. So we would still be sitting, again, in a place in time, not trying to look back and spending money that is there, because that's not really how I look at it. I look at it from a standpoint of where we are at today. This is the funding ratio today. This is the money that we have to work with today. And that's why that's what was presented to the board, those numbers as a place and time of where we were at, where we will be on July 1st. And that's what they voted in favor of with the vote that I just.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Pappas.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mauer, for those comments. I understand the place and time, sort of, but I mean, we're making decisions here for 30 years. And although, I think the SBI does a fabulous job in investing our pension money, and the markets are going up and down. They seem more up, revenues coming in, but we live in kind of some chaotic times, certainly internationally and nationally. And so I'm just kind of worried about the, it's kind of the solvency of the fund to make sure that we protect this pension fund for teachers who are going to rely on it, in the future. And mistakes have been made in the past with this fund. And that was a little before my time, but not much before my time. And we're still trying to make it up to teachers with this two-tier system. And I know this is a bill that is attempting to do that. But I just want to make sure that we can afford it and that you can afford it and the state can afford it.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Thank you, Mr. Mauer. We're going to go now to Representative Nadeau, and then from Representative Nadeau to Senator Nelson. Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mauer. The TRA board had a very, very strong position up until last year that they would not support any improvements that weren't fully funded. And I remember that succinctly because I had a proposal that was not supported by the TRA board because it wasn't 100% funded at that time. Can you talk to me a little bit about what happened between that time and that strong position and not endorsing plan benefit changes that weren't fully funded, and where we are today, and the vote that they took yesterday that said, yes, we want to move forward?
Thank you, Representative Nadeau. Mr. Mauer.
Chair, Representative Joe, I'll do my best to speak on behalf of the board. I don't, to see how I understand in a way I think they would answer that question. My position would be this particular bill, again, we talked about it yesterday at the special board meeting. We discussed risk and we discussed some of those types of things and what they are comfortable with and wearing their fiduciary, and having that fiduciary hat being in that role. I think what changed is the fact that in previous years, we were not looking at this contribution sufficiency at a 0.51. That was because those rate increases didn't kick in until July 1st of this year. So I think that's part of it. Having that contribution sufficiency and looking at this being less than half of it and still leaving us in a place where we have a contribution sufficiency, I think that had some impact on their influence. They felt that the improvements were significant enough and went a long way in what I would call some of that equity, that intergenerational equity between people that were hired before and after 89. And I think they felt that this did a lot in addressing that. And since we had the sufficiency there, and this was really not going to be taking up a huge portion of that, they were comfortable with that risk. And that's why they voted to support, allowing us to use some of that sufficiency.
Representative Nadeau. All right. Thank you, Representative. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the discussion. There's nothing that I'd like to do more than see the inequity between the 1989 and the 1990 post teachers as far as retirement resolved. I have been hearing about this since I started teaching in 1992. And I know it's a problem, and I know it was designed with good intentions, but it's caused some significant issues. And so I'd like to see this resolved, but I cannot take off my responsibility of making sure that anything we do is actually funded and is not making the fund so that it is not sufficient, so that it would not be able to pay its promises, or teachers would be charged more or would pay a greater percent in the future. And I'm also concerned that a couple things that were said here today are things that I think we've all learned. One of the first things I learned when I came to the House 17 years ago, a long time ago, I don't know if any of you were there then, but what I would say is one of the first things I learned is you cannot spend $1 twice. And that's an important piece for us as legislators to understand. You cannot spend $1 twice and think you are going to skate without paying for it somewhere along the line. And that's a little bit what it sounds like with what was happening here as far as maybe using the sufficiency twice to buy two different things. So I'm somewhat concerned about that. And the other piece I would want to know, I would like to definitively hear. I want to know if the plan before us as amended is fully funded.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Mr. Mauer, do you understand the question?
Chair, could you please repeat the tail part? I kind of missed it.
I want to know if the bill before us as amended is fully funded. I want to hear those words. It is fully funded. I
Senator-
cannot vote for something if it's not fully funded.
Senator Nelson, I'm going to have to ask for my own clarification for the public educators benefit improvement. We have the state putting in 20 million and then the use of the sufficiency that Mr. Mauer is testifying to. When you say fully funded, can I assume you mean those two combined?
That is the math, but I want to know how it affects the pension. In other words, how does it affect the pension that we are reducing the sufficiency? And so on the one hand, it sounds like it might not be fully funded because and just some full disclosure, one of the first things that I learned coming on the pension board is that you cannot do pensions on the cheap. All right. That's for sure. We know who says that and we've heard it many times. He's probably turning red right now. Okay, well, I got the message. You cannot do pensions on the cheap, no matter how good it might feel. And my concern is one of the longtime issues that we've had here is this big red box for the St. Paul teachers. And that happened a long time before I got here, but we're still having that issue where we tried to do pensions on the cheap. And that's, I think, the thing to learn about pensions. You might do something little today and it might seem like, well, we're just kind of not fully funding or we're changing things a little bit today, but there's something about pensions. They are 30-year plans and those things grow. And so I'm not totally convinced yet. I don't know if I answered your question, Mr. Chair, but what do I mean by fully funded? It sounds like the sufficiency rate has gone down with this proposal. Is that correct? The sufficiency rate
I'll
has been
take that,
reduced.
Mr. Mauer. Yeah, so they're testifying to a sufficiency of 0.51, and should the bill pass, a portion of that, roughly half, would be absorbed. So the benefit would be fully funded, assuming we're including the sufficiency use and the state
Yes.
funding.
And then
But
one,
Mr. Mauer can confirm that if you don't want to take my word for it.
I trust you, but I'll let Mr. Mauer also
Mauer.
speak.
Oh, thank you, Chair. And Senator Nelson, yes, that would be, if you combine the two and you take the additional state aid of $20 million a year as a percentage of our, an increase in the employer contribution rate of 0.31, that going over through the remainder of 2048, along with using 0.26% of our contribution sufficiency, would fully fund this benefit improvement. It's not fully funded with new dollars, but it is fully funded with our contribution sufficiency, and it's fully funded with state contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Nelson.
Try not to take too much time. Thank you. That was helpful. I think what I was looking for, is it fully funded with new dollars? We are kind of repurposing dollars, I think, is what I took from that. I have two other questions. One, what about the amortization date to being fully funded for the plan?
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Mr. Mauer.
Thank you, Chair. Senator Nelson, our current amortization schedule under current law is 2048. We're scheduled to be fully funded in, I think it's 2043. So we're about 6 years or 5 years ahead of schedule.
For
And
now.
then, Mr.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you. And then just to follow up, with the proposed change today, what would the amortization date estimated? What would be the estimate?
Mr. Mauer.
Okay. Chair and Senator Nelson, I have not asked our actuaries to run that. We haven't gotten that. We just had this costed out I think I got the cost estimates just for the proposal maybe last week or so. So I have to get that information back. And we are going to be doing a new valuation on, we'll have our preliminary valuations coming in July. We'll start working on those. So I'll have a better answer to that.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
Mauer.
Mr.
Senator
Chair,
Nelson.
taking a lot of time, I'll just say, one outstanding question, not maybe that anyone can answer here, is how this is going to affect our schools. They are already really suffering under unfunded mandates that we sent down to them in the last 2 years. And schools do pay, those employers do pay into these pensions. So I'm concerned about, I want to know more about that. And then I think that would be the end of my questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Senator Rasmussen, I see your hand up again, and also Senator Pappas. But just to that point, Senator Nelson, I believe what we're looking at here is the sufficiency and the state funding being given to the districts to offset any increase in the employer contribution. So we have not heard from any districts with any concerns, and hopefully they would like to see the teachers' enhanced pension benefit actually improve the way they're able to recruit and retain, but that is a different meeting. With that, I honestly didn't see which senator had their hand up first. We are trying to move the agenda along, so we'll go to Senator Pappas. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express my disappointment in the 13A that it doesn't include St. Paul teachers. I think St. Paul teachers, the little engine that could, is usually very closely tied to TRA. And so it's disappointing to me that they're not being included. It's a very small cost for them to be added in. But I respect that TRA needs to keep their, make sure that the plan, as you said, is fully funded. We would need another $1 million. Maybe God will hear me and grant us another $1 million. The St. Paul teachers do have a career rule, but that they got 2 years ago, but they're paying for it totally by themselves. The teachers are paying for it. So the unfairness here is that with this proposal, the state is paying for it and the sufficiency is paying for it. And I think it's really very unfair that St. Paul has not been included. I've had a lot of conversations today with a lot of lovely people about why that might have happened and the circumstances, but St. Paul teachers are also teachers, right? They're part of the whole teacher world. And I think we need to treat all of our children equally. And so it's very disappointing to me that we're not doing that in this case.
Senator Pappas. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree with the concerns that Senator Pappas raises as well. We've typically tried to treat all teachers across the state the same. And we did that with our 2023 pension bill, which I'm really proud of. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to withdraw the balance of the A13. I'd like to offer the A15. I'm happy to explain it.
Senator Rasmussen moves that we table the current discussion on the second half of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We
I'm
do have the
actually just-
second half of the amendment before us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm withdrawing the balance of the amendment, and I'd like to offer the A15, which I think staff has copies of. And I'm happy to explain the A15.
Just a moment, Senator. All right. If I'm following correctly, what you're asking the LCPR to consider is a change to the second half of the amendment, withdrawing the first half and then having the second amendment offered. Am I understanding that correctly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think so. So the first portion of the A13 was adopted. I'm proposing that we withdraw the second half of the A13. I want to offer the A15.
Okay, to
and have
be
it
clear, Senator Rasmussen, you are asking to withdraw the teacher benefit improvement part of the amendment to propose a new amendment that is not the teacher benefit improvement.
that this is also related to teacher benefit improvement. So
Senator Rasmussen withdraws the second half of the amendment, that portion that relates to teachers, and offers the 15A to the 15A. Senator Rasmussen.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to offer this as an option to commission members today. And I think this is one of the unfortunate parts of today is just how quickly the conversation is going. And I think every single member of this pension commission wants to do something on teacher pensions this year. We want to make sure that we reward the service and preserve pensions as a tool to recruit and retain high quality educators across the state. But there's a number of other options that have been out there that have been presented to this commission that I think could be alternatives for us to take a look at. And so, Mr. Chair, and I can let nonpartisan staff fill in any details, but there's two key features to the A15. One is that it preserves the kind of modified 60 and 30 career rule that we had in the A13. And it makes one adjustment to that. Instead of having a 6% annual impact in terms of the early retirement adjustment, it would move it, I'm sorry, instead of 5%, it would now just be 5.5%. And so that, I believe, gets this closer to being fully funded, to matching the appropriations that we have in the bill before us. And then another feature, Mr. Chair, of this amendment is that it includes on a pro rata basis St. Paul teachers as well. And so I just wanted to offer this as an alternative to discuss. And I would, Mr. Chair, would turn it over to Ms. Wilson or Ms. Lancheski to see if I missed any features of the A15.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Ms. Wilson.
Chair Friends, Senator Rasmussen, that is a correct summary. I think the only other differences come from the pension adjustment revenue, the employer contributions, and the appropriation numbers are changed so that TRA is getting a lesser amount to sort of cover that 1 million cost to St. Paul teachers. So those are the other numbers that you'll see in there that are changed. And we did get those numbers from fiscal staff.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Senator Rasmussen, are you done speaking to the 15A? The chair will have a question and bring another testifier up, but Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so, Mr. Rasmussen or Ms. Wilson or perhaps Mr. Mauer, with this proposal, there is still 19 million available for TRA, 1 million for St. Paul teachers, and then how much is needed from the sufficiency?
Senator, I'm not sure if you're directing a question to Senator
I
Rasmussen.
don't know who can answer that.
I
Start
do
with Senator
intend to have
Rasmussen.
TRA come back up. Why don't we ask Mr. Mauer to come back up, and then Senator Pappas can ask any questions. The chair will have a question. I see Ms. Staton coming up as well. We're going to go to Senator Pappas first, then to the chair for a question.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't 100% sure if Mr. Mauer had seen this amendment. Maybe it was posted, but I think probably Senator Rasmussen might know the answer to my question.
Do you mind repeating your question, Senator Pappas?
How much, in the previous proposal was costing like 17 million from TRA itself. And I'm wondering how much it would now cost from TRA, this proposal, and what that would mean in terms of the sufficiency.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. I wasn't sure if Senator Rasmussen caught that. Senator Rasmussen, I guess the question. And Director Mauer, we're going to hang on for a second. I do have some points I want to make for TRA, but let's go in order. Senator Pappas, you're still asking Senator Rasmussen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would look to either Mr. Mauer or to our nonpartisan staff on the cost, but from the early conversation I had, I think it'd be roughly about half of the cost. And so it better match the funding that's in the bill.
Sounds like we all agree that we're going to go now to TRA. So Senator Pappas, let's start by saying, Mr. Mauer, did you understand the question?
Well, could you please repeat? I'm sorry, Chair.
Senator
Could you please
Pappas.
repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so part of my concern is that much of the previous proposal relied on money from the fund, and it would reduce the sufficiency. So with this more modest proposal, I want to know then how much would the fund have to contribute to this every year, and what that would do to the sufficiency number.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Mr. Mauer or Ms. Staton, to the
Yes.
senator's question.
Certainly, Chair. Senator Pappas. Honestly, I can't give you an answer to that. We have our actuaries, CAVMAC costs out all of these benefit solutions. We have costed out benefits at 6 and 5. I do not have official cost estimates from them at 5.5. We've been in situations like this before, and I know that they have told me you can sometimes shoot for what's in the middle, but it's not necessarily linear because there are things like behavioral changes that have to be anticipated, and they bake that all into their cost estimates. So for me to stand here before the commission and say, I have a number for you, I don't.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Senator Pappas. Then we'll go to the chair.
So when it was at 6, it was 17 million from the fund. What was it when it was at, you said you did an estimate on 5.
Yep. Excuse me.
Thank you, Senator
Chair, Senator
Pappas.
Pappas. Yeah, when we did the 6%, it was roughly a benefit cost on an annual basis of 12.3 million at 6% with the expansion of the COLA delay to all members. To do the 5% was 37 million. Like I said, at 5.5, I've been told by our actuaries, it's not necessarily linear. It's a number. It's something you could say it's probably going to be an approximate number, but I certainly wouldn't want to speak to that saying this is exactly what it is and this is how it's going to impact our sufficiency, our deficiency, because I don't have those numbers, but it would be somewhere in the middle of that. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Ms. Dayton, we're moving the schedule along here a little bit, but if you'd like to add a little bit to Senator Pappas's question, that would be fine.
Thank you, Senator Prince. My name is Holly Dayton, for the record, Legislative Liaison for TRA. Senator Pappas, fair question. The other thing I just wanted to add, in addition to not knowing the cost of this, we also do not know whether or not this particular amendment, as I'm just seeing it here for the first time, would fit within what our Board of Trustees has approved. So one of the conversation yesterday with the board, they were really focused on the fact that giving up the immediate COLA for a group of individuals, that would need to be offset. We were able to model with data that at a 5% augmented factor, as in the underlying bill proposal, everybody would still be better off under that. I have not run numbers on this scenario. I cannot guarantee that that would still be the case. I do know that there was some concern about that. Representative Doe referenced earlier a proposal that he had for expanding the current 6% augmented factors to 60 and 30. And it is, there would be potentially a situation where an individual would not fully benefit under that and would actually get less of a benefit. And so I just wanted to put it out there because we haven't seen this, haven't had a chance to model it or to discuss it. I would personally have concerns that it wouldn't be as clear cut of a situation benefiting the individual as the underlying bill would. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dayton. Senator Pappas. All right, we're going to go to the chair. Ms. Dayton, in simple terms, did the TRA board approve the contents of the A15 amendment yesterday at their board meeting?
Mr. Chair, no, they did not.
And is the change in the funding that would benefit the St. Paul teachers the exact same dollar amount that would be to the detriment of those plan participants for TRA?
Mr. Chair, every dollar that would not be appropriated to TRA would be to the detriment of TRA.
Thank you. Members, we're going to go now to Representative Hill. You're good for now, Representative Hill. Further comments to the 15A? Seeing none, the chair intends to vote no on the 15A. It is not the portion of the bill that we wanted to be dividing, but now that it's divided, this is for the benefit of our teachers, members. A group of Minnesotans who've sent tens of thousands of emails to us asking for this benefit improvement. And the chair will be a no vote on the 15A and we'll be reintroducing the original language to the amendment. I encourage members to vote no on this, not only for the teachers in their district, but for the teachers across the state. Representative Nadeau.
Mr. Chair, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of turn here. Representative or Senator, thank you for bringing this. I think this is, I think it's an important discussion for us to have here. I think we're doing something today that is not, oh, they left. I don't think it's super risky, but it is outside of what we have done in the past. And I haven't been here forever, and I apologize to those of you that have, but we've been, this is just a little outside, and I'm glad that you brought it. I'm also very supportive of, trying to get the St. Paul teachers. Yep, it's a different plan. They have different challenges than TRA does, but they have challenges nonetheless, and they're teachers. But I am going to thank you for bringing it and basically say that I can't vote for it, because I'm very worried about the sufficiency of TRA. I will work to try to help, the St. Paul teachers in the future on this one. But this year we had a lot of options that we could have done to create a better scenario. And this bill, members, is very similar to the bill that I introduced. It's House File 2439. And this is the bill that basically said, if we can't do anything this year, at least we have to do this. We at least have to create an option, for our teachers, especially the TRA teachers, to be able to retire with smaller penalties at age 60. And so I've been strongly supportive of that. Any deviation from that, I think I have to oppose. I really appreciate discussion. I think you're right. Actually, I just don't think the timing on this one is right. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Representative Doe. We're going to go to Senator Pappas and then Senator Seeberger. Senator Pappas.
Thank
to
you,
the
Mr.
eighth.
Chairman. We're seeing the problem here with rushing pension proposals. And it's no fault of the commission, certainly not of the chair, that we got a target so late, like Friday morning. But, you know, having new proposals that we don't have proper analysis of is unfortunate. I mean, I would have liked to have had a, you know, a 6, a 5.5, a 5, so we can kind of look at how much it would cost, how much we have available in our target, how much we can take from the sufficiency, you know, have everybody involved and treating everyone fairly. So I'm really not happy. Again, I agree with you, Representative Doe. It's hard to vote for this without having that information. It's hard to vote in general, you know, on this proposal.
Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really uncomfortable with the pace of this meeting, and I understand that there is pressure for us to get done and to get this bill through and get it to finance and get it on the floor. But we're talking about spending a lot of money right now, and solving a really important problem that we've been wrestling with as long as I've been on the Pensions Commission. I'm with Senator Pappas. I wish I had more time to understand the impact of these various proposals. I'm in favor of doing a career rule for the teachers. Yes, I'm a yes in concept. But when I look at the 13A, the 15A, and without knowing how this is all going to play out, if I vote for the 13A, are we making a bad decision and putting the plan at risk? If I vote for the 15A, are we making a bad decision and not doing right by the teachers? I don't have all the information, and quite frankly, I'm not really comfortable making a decision right here with a chair rushing me. We got to hurry up. We got to get through this. We got to get this off the floor. We got to get it. Leadership says we have to do this. I'm not comfortable with that. And I don't feel like we make our best decisions under that kind of time pressure. That's how we got into this tier 1, tier 2 problem in the first place. So with all due respect to leadership, to our chair, to our wonderful colleagues here on the Pension Commission, and all the respect in the world to the teachers, we got to get this right. So I absolutely am in favor of a career rule, but I, honest to God, don't know what to do here. I don't feel like I have enough information. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Senator Seeberger. And before we go, I think to Senator Nelson, appreciate the idea that we want to have discussion. Earlier today, Senator Pappas, we talked about the need for us to have the discussion tonight. So I'm glad to the extent that we've had it. Cops, firefighters, paramedics, and teachers came here earlier in the year and saw these bills presented. Excellent job by Representative Wolgamott, by Senator Heather Gustafson. We got the targets and brought this forward. And I think the teachers, cops, firefighters, and paramedics want us to do something. And so I'll be a yes vote, notwithstanding those concerns. We are here now in our second hour, so certainly don't intend to rush people. Some people want more time, and I think that's appropriate. With that, members, we have the second half of the amendment withdrawn. And we now have Senator Rasmussen's 15A in front of us. So let's try to confine our remarks to the matter that's before the body. If we're going to have further commentary, I think I saw Senator Nelson raise her hand. Senator
Yes.
Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be brief and have a question for you. I want to see the amortization date. I think that is a very much responsible thing for us. When we vote on any pension bill, we should have that date. That's an important piece of information. And we don't have it yet. Sounds like it might take a few days or a week. And so then my question to you, Mr. Chair, we are going to be coming back for a special session. There's no doubt about that. It's just not possible to get done the budget. I don't even know if they have agreements yet on everything. So I'm just saying it's not possible to close up this session on May 19th. However, I want to know what it seems to me with the desire. I like the fact that I hear everybody wants to do a career rule change. I think that's a good thing. But there's a lot of uncertainty on not having the information that we need in front of us. And so my question to you is, why do you feel, or what would be the harm in starting with the special session And now we have some background information. We have to rewrite all the bills. I understand that, but these aren't jacketed up now, ready anyway. So, Mr. Chair, my suggestion would be, unless you have some reason as to why not, we should learn tonight. We should get some more information. And when we come back for a special session, we should be able to make better decisions. And I just end saying, we know what happens. Just think about that big red box, that 20-year big red box where we didn't treat the St. Paul teachers right. And look what's happened to that. So that would be my suggestion, Mr. Chair. And I'd ask for your reasoning why we might not do what seems like the prudent thing to do for
Sure.
Penlands.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. And members, each of us has to decide whether we feel we have enough information to justify our vote on any amendment or bill or motion. Obviously, the chair feels strongly that we have more than enough information and we've been working on this for months. And so to the extent members feel comfortable with that, we'll be seeking a yes vote and passing the bill out of here. I would add what every one of us in the room knows, which is that sometimes bills get delayed and they die. And I will not in any way support any effort to slow down the bill. I think it's been more than enough time of discussion, and I'm speaking for all the plan participants, hundreds of thousands that are affected by this, who, if we don't choose to move forward when we have enough information, that will say maybe it'll happen in the future, maybe it won't. A good friend of mine is chair of the Senate Bonding Committee, who made a point recently that the discussion might be, we might have a second bonding bill next year, this year. We'll see if we can get the first one across the finish line, but never mind that right now. And the comment was made. Sometimes you put it off and it gets done, sometimes it doesn't. To the question of the amortization, I believe the testimony was the amortization on paper is 2048, but they are currently running 5-6 years ahead of schedule. And you asked a good question. If we adopt this, how would that change that 5 years ahead of schedule? My answer to that would be, it might make a modest change, and I think that's a fair point, but in no way would that change my support for what we're trying to do here for teachers, cops, firefighters, and paramedics. Each member, of course, gets to make their own decision about how they vote on it. Fair enough, Senator Nelson?
I'm not sure I agree, but I understand your point of view.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Members, further comments? Representative O'Driscoll.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure. We've been kind of bouncing around. What order of business are we on? As I understand it, we are on the Rasmussen 15A amendment second half, and you are about ready to do a vote on that, thinking it was the second half of the 13A. Could we please have clarification for members as we're briskly going through conversations tonight, what it is that we are being asked to vote on? Thank you.
We have the 15A amendment before us, members. Further commentary to the 15A.
Chair, that's the 15A amendment divided because we already have, and I will defer to Ms. Linchesky, the first half of that, which was the public safety, when it was divided the first time. That has been adopted. Is that correct?
Representative O'Driscoll, glad to report the first half of the 13A was adopted. It was then second half was withdrawn and the 15A was offered, and that's where we are currently on the 15A. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't think we need to, debate all these ideas, but I just wanted to maybe ask staff if they would hand out the A20, which is an amendment to the A15. And I'll just briefly say what that is actually Representative Nadeau's bill that he presented earlier this session, which is also gets you to a 60 and 30 career rule. And it does it in a slightly different way than what has been proposed by TRA, but it also can be done at a lower cost. And I think, Mr. Chair, what I'm hearing from members is a desire, now that we know our target, and by the way, the target that the Pension Commission has is the biggest target in my time on the Pension Commission. It's because back in 2023, we had $400 million, but that was just one-time money. Now we have $40 million per year.
Senator
forever.
Rasmussen, if you would not mind confining your remarks, are you offering the A20?
Mr. Chair, I'm not offering the A20. I just wanted to make sure that members had that in front of them.
I appreciate members want to have time to think this through. I think one of the chair's responsibilities is where appropriate to keep things moving and keep them on task, much like Senator Champion sometimes says on the floor. We're on the A15 amendment. Senator Rasmussen, do you want to speak to the A15? After you, will go to Senator Howe. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was just talking about the A15 and how this is the largest pension target that I've had in my 5 years in the Pension Commission. It's about $40 million a year forever, which is worth hundreds of millions of dollars in one-time money. And so I just think it's really important that we spend that right and that we make sure that we are making wise decisions today, because I don't know the next time we might get a target like this. And so, Mr. Chair, we have, Representative Nadeau's bill, which gets us to a career rule of 60 and 30. We have the A15 in front of us, which gets us to a career rule of 60 and 30. And we have the TRA proposal, which also has a career rule. And I think, Mr. Chair, my preference would be, especially given the timeline that we don't have enough days left to pass this as a standalone bill, given our constitutional requirements, that we could ask TRA, ask our actuary to look at some of these options and to come back, and so we can understand the trade-offs and make this decision right, especially since we're headed into a special session. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I'm going to withdraw the A15.
Senator Rasmussen withdraws the A15. Members, we're going to go to the chair next, but first a quick comment. The question is, do we have enough information to make these very important decisions for these Minnesotans? Just as a point of comparison, members of the LCPR, we adopted Article 1 long ago, which is the MSRS sufficiency increasing their multiplier. So just to be clear, members of this commission felt that it was appropriate to take the MSRS general plan from 1.7 to 1.9, which is a good improvement. And that was based on the sufficiency and the testimony at the time. So the LCPR members were comfortable adopting Article 1, which went on, and I think appropriately so, and it earned the chair's vote. I do want members to feel that they have enough time to consider those things, but I point this out in order to contrast this simple fact, and I don't recall the vote, but it was enough to pass, that members had full comfort in Article 1 adopting a benefit improvement for MSRS general plan members based on a sufficiency. So with that, I propose that we carry on here with the hearing. And if I'm understanding correctly, Senator Rasmussen, Senator Howe, I did reserve the chair after Senator Rasmussen. The chair would reoffer the second half of the A13 amendment and ask Ms. Wilson to repeat the contents of the second half of the A13 previously withdrawn. As you know, the rules allow a previously offered amendment that's withdrawn to be reoffered. Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Prince. The second half of the A13 starts on 4.1 and goes towards the last page, which is 11.28. Again, these are the benefit improvements to TRA. We also have adjustments to the pension adjustment revenue, appropriation of money, and again, an adjustment to employer contributions. The benefit increases lower the age for the enhanced early retirement reduction from 62 to 60, lowers the reduction percentage from 6% to 5%, and deletes all exceptions to the COLA delay.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Members, of course, this is the remainder of the amendment that Senator Rasmussen offered and then divided. I'd ask for member support. This would be funding the pension improvement and the career rule for our Minnesota teachers, our beloved teachers, in my opinion. But regardless of my opinion, we're going to put this to a vote unless there's further commentary to the second half. Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, Representative Nadeau. I made a mistake and it's on the chair. Senator Howe had asked to be recognized. And so with your permission, Representative Nadeau, I'm going to go to Senator Howe.
Matter
Senator
of
Howe.
fact, I thought I had the chair before the chair had his comments, but I'm going to have thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity
Senator
to
Howe.
speak. And I'll put it to you this way. I'm disappointed that I didn't get a chance to speak before the 15A was withdrawn. Because as I look at the 13A, and when you talk about sufficiency, a 0.25 sufficiency left over to me is a scary place to be on a pension plan. And so I don't know what the 15A was for sufficiency, but it was much better than the 13A. So if you want to talk about being comfortable with one of these, if I'm getting pushed to make a decision, I'm going to go with the 15A because to me, it's a more stable position to be in. So now you're going to tell me, and I want to get something for the teachers. I'm there. But to tell me I'm going to support the 13A when it's not the best option that's presented in front of me, I've got an issue. And that's where I'm at. And so I currently, if I'm going to have to vote on one of these, and it's the 13A, and there's to me, my opinion, there's a better plan, a safer plan on the table, I'm going to vote no on the 13A, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Howe. And to be clear, we're on the second half of the 13A has been reoffered by the chair. I had Representative Doe, who I interrupted, Senator Pappas. So if okay, we're going to go to Representative Nadeau and then to Senator Pappas. Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, the A20 was probably the greatest bit of legislation that was on the table today, members. And that's the challenge with, pensions. And with all due respect, Mr. Chair, I wish we would have met a couple of times since April 22nd. And I think that's what's causing some of the confusion and trying to get our heads around, because what we do, we want to do the right thing. And I wish I did know what a 5.5% discount would have been, and measure that with the impact that it would have had on teacher retirements. And I just want to also be clear that these aren't career rules. This is a special early retirement bill. That's what these are. These aren't career rules. We've got a lot of work to do if we want to create a career rule. This is not it. But what this is going to do, and it's going to help where it needs to. So the rest of 13A, you know, I am supportive because I trust that the pension, the TRA evaluated this deeply. And they moved off of a very, very strong position historically to say that we need to make these improvements. And I agree with Senator Howe. This is a interesting situation. You know, they were going to have they're at a 0.5%, you know, deficiency right now. July 1st, they're going to be at a 1% or a little, they're going to be at a little bit better than that. And now we're immediately spending for a benefit. I think they're doing everything they can. I think we need to do a better job and keep working hard to get big targets, or at least better targets. So, and with that, I support the 13A members, because I think it's important. I wish it was the 20A, but so thank you for introducing that, Senator. But I will be supportive of 13A tonight.
Thank you, Representative Doe. We're going to go to Senator Pappas. Again, members,
thank
we
you,
are
Mr.
on the second half of the 13A as offered by the chair. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding the 13A that I do have some concerns about generational equity. We've talked about that before, that younger teachers are paying for a benefit for many, many years that older teachers are not having to pay for so many years. But I understand that the older teachers will have some skin in the game through a delayed colon. So maybe Ms. Wilson could explain that a little bit more.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. I think that's an excellent idea. Members, we're going to go to Miss on the
Cola.
skin in the game COLA. You're referring to what's in the second half of the 13A amendment. With that, we'll go to Ms. Wilson. Ms. Wilson, if you could explain the effect on the teachers of the delayed COLA provision. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Friend, Senator Pappas. Yes, so we are looking at lines 10.31 to 10.34. And that is the sort of exception to the COLA delay for TRA members. Usually under this exception, if you qualify under Tier 1 for Rule of 90 or 62 and 30, you don't get a COLA delay. Under Tier 2, if you qualify for a 62 and 30, you also don't get a COLA delay. So because this bill deletes the whole paragraph, means that anybody Tier 1, Tier 2 who qualifies for Rule of 90 or 62 and 30 would be subject to the COLA delay currently in the statute.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's helpful.
All right. Members, we're still on the second half of the 13A, seeing no further comments. All those in favor, I'm sorry, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of wanted to wait to make this comment until we came to the point of the vote on this. And I want to offer my apologies. And the apologies are that we pushed too hard in the House for $124 million target. And I feel that we're somewhat responsible for the conversation tonight because we were successful in helping us to get money to the table. So I apologize for our due diligence and our efforts to get us here tonight.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. But if you ask me, that is a badge of honor for the Minnesota House of Representatives to have fought for that higher target. And there is no question, members, that without that House battle, we would not be at the target we're at now, nor on the verge of approving these public safety and educator benefit improvements. So while I note for the record your apology, I think a thank you is probably more in order from LCPR and from the men and women in Minnesota who stand to benefit from this. I see a lot of nodding heads. So thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. With that, we are now prepared to vote on the second half of the 13A amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Thank you, members, for your patience on that. We are now going to go as expeditiously as possible to the 5A amendment. Members, you may remember the probation officer discussion about benefit improvements. What I'd like to do then is have Ms. Wilson walk through this. This is back before us because they have essentially agreed to a study. And the study hopefully will come back to us in LCPR to find improvements at a future LCPR. With that, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Friends. And maybe I'll perhaps ask first if it's okay that I'll summarize both the 5A and the 4A as they are both work groups, but I'll just go through the differences
Sure.
between the two.
Excellent idea. Ms. Wilson.
All right, thank you, Chair Friends. The commission heard testimony at 2 meetings on Senator Kupek's bill, which added a new benefit for probation officers that would allow them to retire with full pension at 60 or with 35 years of service. The bill also increased employee contributions to pay for the new benefit. Due to the concerns that employees with less service would pay too much for the new benefit, while employees with more service would pay too little, the commission could not reach agreement on the bill. The authors proposed a work group to recommend a new pension plan at para for probation officers employed by counties and cities, and a new state pension plan for MSRS for probation officers employed by the state. The 5A amendment establishes a work group and directs that the work group, consisting of stakeholders from 17 different agencies, unions, associations, meet during the interim to recommend new pension plans and who would be eligible and consider other related topics. Under the 5A and what's different from the 5A to the 4A, the 5A has that the work groups must make a determination about options for providing health care to employees who take early retirement. The 5A also includes considering possible sources of funding for purchasing past credit, purchasing credit for past service, including employee or employer contributions or state aid. The 4A does not include that consideration. The 5A specifically names forensic scientists as being part of the considerations on whether they should be included in these new plans. And the 5A also has a report due to the commission on January 31st, 2026. The 4A has the report due on January 15, 2026.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Members, understanding that we have 2 amendments in front of us, we're going to go to the 5A, but I think discussion is appropriate on both at this time. With that, I see Representative Neto, and then we'll go to Senator Rasmussen. Representative Neto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After this is Representative Wolgamott and Senator Kupek's bill, we started working on this, and the 5A, I think that is the amendment that was adopted in the Senate State Gov bill. So this is the first word I'm seeing of this. And so I'm going to speak more to the kind of the 4A and the process that we got there. And then I'll address the changes in the 5A because that's the thing that we're under. So what happened is after the discussion, the stakeholders came together and we started, it was probation officers, it was the counties, even the forensic scientists contributed to this thing. And so we started addressing who membership should be included. We only added MPPOA. And we spent a lot of time looking at mandating versus what this organization should consider. And so we really focused on the probation officers and 911 telecommunicators, because we also know that they're coming into this as well. So that's the focus of the work group, is that's the mandate that they're supposed to study. There's other that can be brought in under the 4A. It's forensic scientists. It could be civil, other civil employees that work law enforcement adjacent that may want to be discussed, but we left that up to the work group to decide. We were very specific in making sure that the underlying bill, if you recall, included a 100% payment for this new benefit to be borne by the employees. Most of us had some concern with that because it was significant and it would have created a shift to newer employees. We wanted to make sure that we addressed that and didn't recreate the issue that what we have currently with tier 1 and tier 2 teachers. I mean, because that's what that underlying bill did. And so we pushed the work group to study those things. And we said, and it was very important for the probation officers, that they wanted to ensure that they had the ability to address their past credit issues. And now going forward, I'm not going to talk about all the things that we think will happen, but I will now go to the 5A. And I don't know where, so if you look on 2.28, starting on the 5A on line 2.28, and 2.29, that was added. These are options available could be made for providing healthcare to employees who take early retirement under the new pension plans. We didn't add that. It was something that was talked about. To me, it's a deal breaker. That adds a huge cost. That adds a whole nother component to this work study. This is not part in what I would consider to be part of a pension plan that we anticipate will either be a sub-plan under the MSRS and or a new plan very similar to the corrections plan under para. And then on line 3.9, 3.8, under in the 5A, on 3.9 after the word service, they added in possible sources of funding for making purchases, whether from employee or employer contributions or the state. To me, that's very problematic. The state, I don't think, should be on the hook for, providing for past credit for any state employee that wants to have an enhanced benefit. Employers were very clear, these are counties. Employers were very clear that they want to stay very similar to what they're paying right now with the para basic plan. And I think that the first part of that section, the options for members to purchase credit for past service, including methods for purchasing credit for past service, is broad enough to address the issue that probation officers have wanted to address. In line 3.13, again, not a huge deal. They included forensic scientists. That is going to be added. We wanted to make sure that we kept this language focused on the underlying bill, which was probation officers and 911 telecommunicators. And then the only other change, which again is not a big deal one way or the other, is on 3.28. We originally had that date as, originally it was the end of the year. We moved it to January 15th so that we didn't overwork our staff over the holiday break to get us a report. But the whole goal of this work plan was to get the stakeholders in the room. Let's figure this out. Let's work with para. Let's work with the probation officers. Let's build an option and figure out what we can do and then move immediately next session. So that's why we put the date at January 15th to give a break. A5 just says January 31st. So I am a no vote on the A5 because I think it goes too far. It creates an expectation that I don't think that we should build into a work group. I think the A4 is what the stakeholders agreed to, but I would also like to hear from Representative Wogelman.
Thank you, Representative Nadeau. We'll go to Representative Wogelman. Representative.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, for all the time and attention that was spent on the underlying bill that led to this amendment. It was a bill brought forward by Senator Kupek, Senate File 1986, then my bill 1797, authorizing an unreduced early retirement for probation agency employees. We had a lot of discussion. I think we can all agree that we want to do better by our probation officers. We all appreciate the important sacrifices that they and their families make and the crucial role that they play in our criminal justice system. Unfortunately, this commission did not see, in the words of my colleague, Senator Pappas, did not see that bill ready for prime time. And so I really do appreciate Representative Nadeau, working with me to try to find something that we can do to move the ball forward for these public servants and improve their pensions. So I appreciate the collaboration with you, Representative Nadeau, and with all the stakeholders. I did not bring forward the A5 amendment, so I won't speak to that. but I do appreciate all the work that Representative Nadeau put forward on the A4 amendment, and I'll be supporting both of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wolgamott. Members, further discussion. Representative Wolgamott makes a good point. I don't know that either A4 or A5 was actually offered, but let's go to Representative O'Driscoll first, and then we'll do some offering. Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was just to the point of the amendments. We detected earlier as a commission, and the purpose of the commission is to take very complicated issues and give time with both chambers and both major parties in those chambers the opportunity to get around the table and discuss these and deliberate those and ask questions and more detailed questions than you maybe have time for in a committee. And we detected that there were some questions, some issues with this bill when it came forward. And what we did is we took it out of the fast lane and we took it and moved it into the slow lane, and we put it into the off ramp to put it in a study situation, which I think is the right thing to do when you're deliberating and contemplating the future of this. Furthermore, I really appreciate the fact that Representative Nadeau and Representative Wolgamott have worked together to find a solution that I believe this commission will unanimously support in putting in the pension bill. That's the field of work that we do. That is when we are the most successful. And as the night moves on, I think you're going to find generally these things that we have that are in the way of amendments are going to go generally pretty fast and pretty well because we've taken the time to do them, vet them, and make sure we've got it right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. Further commentary at this point, Representative Nadeau, Representative Wolgamott, having gotten the award for cooperation so far, would one of you like to offer the 5A?
Mr. Chair, I will author the 5A, although I did not bring it to the commission, but I will certainly put my name to it.
Well, to be clear, members, our intention would be to have someone offer both of them. And so I'm simply saying, Representative Wolgamott, you don't have to bring it with you, but you could offer it at this point.
I will offer it.
Representative Wolgamott offers the 5A amendment. Any discussion to that motion? Senator Pappas.
I'm sorry, I'm unclear. I don't understand why we have two amendments.
Senator Pappas, we have two amendments that both deal with the probation
Right.
work group. They are different. And happy to have questions answered back and forth. We're now prepared to vote on the first of those two. Our intention would be to also vote on the second. The fact that they're duplicative is something members can sort out. With that, Senator Pappas still has the floor.
Well,
and then
Mr.
we'll go-
Chairman, I just, I'm kind of want to support the work of my colleagues here, and I don't know which one. I thought they were preferring the 4A,
Senator Pappas, perfectly appropriate.
and I
for
don't
us
know
to
where the 5A
clarify
came
that.
from. And
Um,
who's-
The 5A has been on the agenda and been posted, but let's do this. To either represent, the 5A has been offered, either Representative Wolgamott or Representative Nadeau want to make a recommendation to the LCPR. If you made a joint recommendation, I have the funny feeling it would pass.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if it would be appropriate to take public testimony on this amendment, or if that's, if we're taking testimony at this hearing.
I'm not opposed to a couple minutes of testimony, but I think I'm asking another question first. Is there consensus between the two of you about how you would like the commission to proceed? You've already gotten complimented on working together. Is your work together to the point where you could agree on which amendment you'd like the LCPR to adopt? Or do we still have enough daylight between the two that we got to debate a little bit? Senator Howe, let these guys tell us if they do have a recommendation, then we'll go to Senator Howe before any votes are taken. Just asking a question. And if they're not able to decide, that's fine. Let's go to Representative Nadeau, just the chair seeking peace in the valley on this issue, if possible.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, honestly, I think the 4A is better. That's what they signed off on. But honestly, the work group can function just fine with the 5A. They can. We
Right.
don't need to belabor this. We're happy to, pass the 5A. The work group will work through those issues. And so I will second, if there's a possibility, the 5A, and so we can move on.
Representative Nadeau, thank you. That's kind of what we're looking for. So there is a motion on the 5A. There's support for that motion by Representative Nadeau. We'll now go to Senator Howe. Senator Howe's off the list, and now we'll go to Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the clarification. The one thing that I would like to know, as we have the 5A in front of us, is Representative Nadeau mentioned the addition on lines 3.8 through 3.10 on the 5A, which is not in the 4A. And my question is about, are we pushing this onto the employer as being the counties? And now the counties are going to be left holding the bag, so to speak, to fund this. And I want to know if that is the case, if I understood that, and how much.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Representative Nadeau, do you want to try that?
Yes, this would, the counties are opposed to this language. Because the counties currently are paying, and maybe we want to get Matt up to talk about it, but this bill, the underlying bill was employee contributions only. And so by expanding this, it is now basically telling the work group that they can come up with a plan that possibly increases the employer contributions or the state contributions to create this new benefit pension.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Nadeau. I think that is a major change from the 4A. And I will ask, I'm somewhat new on the Pension Commission and the LCPR. Is it standard procedure to have a working group have that type of, I would say, decisive power to implement cost responsibilities onto other units of government like the counties? It seems to me that that is something a little beyond a working group. But I ask if that's happened before.
Senator Nelson, thank you for that. We're going to go to Representative Nadeau and Representative Wolgamott. Chime in if you need to. After we go to Representative Nadeau's answer, we'll take a brief moment of testimony, but Representative Nadeau.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that this bill authorizes a work group. That work group will make recommendations to this body. We are the decision makers, right, on this.
Thank you, Representative Nadeau. Senator Nelson.
I understand that this body right here is the decision maker, but it seems to me that when a working group goes forward, it'd be good to know what their lane is, so to speak, and that this makes a huge difference having that type of. I'm just saying it's such a huge difference between the 4A and the 5A, putting the option for the working group to recommend putting more costs on counties. That's a huge step. And so I'm curious why we're not voting on the 4A, which is what came.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. We still can vote on the 4A. Where we are is we've had the 5A offered. We're going to go to Senator Howe in a moment, but just to be clear, we've just had some commentary from Representative Nadeau and Representative Wolgamott that they're both okay with the 5A. Seeing the counties here at the testifying table, I'm going to go to Senator Howe. And then following that, even if there are other member questions, we'll go to hear from the counties. That seems to be central to Senator Nelson's concern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will say that I believe that the two representatives were basically the authors of the 4A, the way it sounds. The question I have is, where did the 5A come from?
If that question is directed to the chair, I had it submitted with Representative, I think Wolgamott's name attached to it. And I think it came from Ms. Haas with Representative Wolgamott's cooperation. And I still think we should go to the counties to address the first question.
Yeah, I did.
And the amendment posted does not mean the amendment is adopted. Representative Steer.
I just feel left out. I'm just trying to, add into the whatever I can. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative. With that, we're going to go now to Mr. Hilgart. Mr. Hilgart, the question is the 5A and the county's cost opposition or support. Mr. Hilgart, please introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Chair Friends, members of the commission, I appreciate you allowing public testimony on this. And I know things move very quickly and there have been conversations with other interested groups on this issue throughout session, and a convoluted perspective from our association on the underlying pension enhancement benefit. Through it all, we've been clear that we do believe this should be employee contribution funded. We are really grateful of the bipartisan work that you're putting into a thoughtful work group, but we've also been clear about our advocacy of the counties right now are budgetarily stressed. This legislature is also not looking great for us right now. The initial plan that was proposed at this session for an enhancement benefit was employee funded. We wanted to honor that and make sure that that language was included in the work group. We appreciate both the 4A and 5A have references to the possibility of this being an employee pension fund. The new 5A language, particularly the one that Senator Nelson called out, is language that is concerning for our employer perspective on here. It says this is the options for members to purchase service credits for past service, including methods for purchasing credit for past services and possible sources for funding those past services credits by employee, employer, or the state. What I would respectfully posit is that I am indifferent to the employee or state portion of that, but I am asking that that employer not be taken out or at least have further discussion in this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Hilgart. That is helpful and is directly to the question Senator Nelson was asking. Let's have Ms. Haas offer her any comments she wants, and then we'll go back to member questions. Ms. Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Nancy Haas from Pool Haas on behalf of the Minnesota Correctional Association. And I just want to address, we care the most about the additional language that talks about past service credit and the possible funding sources, particularly from employee or the state. We are agnostic as to the employer. But I think it's, and I will also say that this work group can talk about these things whether or not you have this language. However, given this conversation we've had about past service and the importance of discussing it, we want to be very transparent about what the conversations will be about and what has happened in other pension funds in the past related to past service, the individual annuity by the employee and or possible state contributions. So I just want to share that those are the important pieces from our perspective related to that language.
Thank you, Ms. Haas. And members, we're going to go now. I believe I had Senator Nelson. We have the 5A before us, but after all our member questions, we're going to see if there's any agreement between Representative Nadeau and Representative Wolgamott on this. Or Senator Nelson, you want to yield the floor to the possible solution between these two fine
Mr. Chair,
legislators?
I will wait right now with bated breath to hear the solution. If
Thank you.
not, I have a different solution.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Appreciate that. With
Mr. Chair,
that,
is there white smoke?
there might just be. Representative Wolgamott.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you for the discussion on these dueling amendments. It's been my intention to work with Representative Nadeau on this solution going forward. We've had some time to confer and we have both decided to withdraw the 5A and put forward the 4A.
Representative Wolgamott withdraws the 5A and offers the 4A. Thank you to the extent that represents cooperation. The 4A now being before the LCPR. Are there any further member questions, comments, or concerns to the 4A amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the aforementioned Peace in the Valley 4A amendment, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The motion prevails and the 4A amendment is adopted. Thank you for the cooperative tone there. Members, we are now going to the 2A amendment on the agenda. I had listed the duty disability amendment. I think it would be best for us to take that as the final item. Senator Pappas's Secure Choice Retirement Program is related to the 2A amendment, and we're going to go to Ms. Lincheski for a brief description of the contents of the 2A amendment. Ms. Lincheski.
Thank you, Chair Friends. The 2A amendments makes 3 changes that affect the Secure Choice Program, which, as a reminder, was established in 2023 and is in the process of pulling together all the details so it can open hopefully in 2026. The 2A amendment revises the definition of home and community-based services employee to open the program to as many home health care workers as wish to use the program. Not a requirement. It just opens the program to a broader category of people. The second change is it adds a requirement that the program must inform participants of the annual limit on contributions to an IRA. This is probably an oversight from the original bill, so the board needs to do that. And then the third change is that it moves a provision relating to information deed. The Department of Economic Employment and Economic Development must share with the program into chapter 187 and adds the Secure Choice program to the list of agencies deed must share information with. My understanding is that this information is really critical to the success of the program. That's my summary.
Thank you, Ms. Linchewski. So Senator Pappas, would you like to speak to the 2A? Senator Pappas?
Mr. Chairman, I don't need to speak to it. I think it's, we worked out the differences with deed, and so I think it's really good to go. So I'd move the 2A amendment.
Thank you. Senator Pappas moves the 2A amendment. Members, do we have any discussion to the 2A amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the 2A, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The motion prevails and the 2A amendment is adopted. Members, the final non-duty disability amendment is the 9A. Senator Westland, would you be comfortable offering the 9A amendment? Probably. Senator Westland offers the 9A amendment. I had Ms. Linchewski listed as the staff member best suited to explain the 9A. Ms. Linchewski.
Thank you. The 9A amendment is a collection of corrections, clarifications, and technical changes to a whole bunch of statutes. Staff since last session has been working with Department of Revenue, Teamsters, Minnesota State, State Auditor's Office, PARA, and Relief Associations, and has sort of uncovered a number of things that needed to be fixed in the statutes. The first few pages here are really just technical changes. So I'm going to move right over to Article 11, which is a continuation of the DE1. That updates the statute that established this commission. It eliminates a reporting requirement that hasn't been complied with in decades. It makes obsolete changes to a few things that are in our statute. Technical changes, really updating language. Article 12 amends statutes governing the PARA statewide volunteer firefighter plan. Article 13 clarifies who is eligible to transfer from Minnesota State IRAP to the Teachers Retirement Association. Article 14 clarifies how fire state aid and supplemental state aid is administered and allocated. This one took many months to come to this language. That was a complicated statute. Article 15 for the State Board of Investment revises the reporting deadline to allow time to receive an audit report and eliminates a redundant report. Article 16 adds a reference to the Eden Valley Rescue Squad that is missing from the eligibility statute for the para-defined contribution plan. And Article 17 makes a bunch of corrections and clarifications to several statutes. Technical changes.
Thank you, Ms. Linchewski. Members, discussion or questions to the 9A amendment? Senator Howard, do you want to be recognized? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the 9A amendment, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we could take a moment just to stretch. We're going to go to, I think, someone offering the 12A. Representative O'Driscoll, Senator Howe, Representative Lilly. Do you want to take 1 or 2 minutes recess? We're on the final agenda item before we wrap up just offering. All right. With that, I think I want to recognize Representative Steer. No. Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to offer the 12A, please.
Senator Seeberger offers the 12A amendment. Senator Seeberger, do you want to have staff walk through the amendment? Would you like to speak to it first?
I'm happy to speak to it.
Senator Seeberger.
Thank you. The 812 amendment relates to continued health insurance with respect to Minnesota Statute 299A, 465, and other duty disability. Do we want me to wait until the staff passes out the 812? Okay.
The staff will distribute the 12A amendment. All right, Senator Seeberger, it looks like all the members have got the draft of the amendment. Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The provisions of the 812, 12A amendment applies to para-police and fire members. It prospectively reduces healthcare benefits to 60 months. It grandfathers those currently receiving the benefit to age 65. Employers cannot contest para-duty disability determination. And total and permanent disabilities covered under existing law, continued health insurance to age 65. It eliminates settlements or compensation in lieu of health insurance. Normal retirees over age 55 are exempt from receiving continued health benefits under 299A.465. It allows access to treatment benefits while actively remaining at work. It protects employees from having to use paid leave or sick time for mental health treatment. It adds a requirement for communication between employer and employee regarding healthcare invoices. Specifically, employers must pay treatment costs not covered by employees' insurance and may seek reimbursement from DPS by August 1 annually. They will need proof of cost to do that. Also, employers have noted difficulty getting necessary information from employees during treatment, and there's a concern of missing reimbursement deadlines. This would be effective upon enactment. And the rationale for this particular amendment, Mr. Chair and members, has to do with the health of this particular fund. It's in trouble. Brian Rice can speak more to the need for this particular amendment. I am aware that there is opposition from MPPOA with regard to this particular duty disability amendment. That opposition, I believe, arose this morning. Prior to that, they were on board. However, in conversations that I've had all day with various stakeholders, members, people who have a great familiarity with this particular fund, I'm convinced that this remedy is appropriate, given the health of the fund and the need to safeguard benefits for future claims. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask that we accept some testimony from Brian Rice and other interested parties on this particular amendment.
Thank you, Senator Seeberger. Members, I'd be happy to call Mr. Rice up to testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members before we do that? Seeing none, or Representative Steer.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about this. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there was a lot of work that got put into this before I came to the table. The deal was brought to us by the MPPOA, their idea, and then it died. And we brought it back to life. And I do think this is a fix for the pension system. At 22 years in law enforcement, I want to make sure that my pension is there when I retire. And I do think this is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Steer. Coming from not just an LCPR member, but someone with a personal stake in this question, I think that testimony is helpful. Members, if there's no further questions, we're going to go to Mr. Rice. Mr. Rice, I see you there. And Ms. Finn from the cities, you're both welcome to take the table. Mr. Rice, thank you for appearing, Ms. Finn. I know you're anxious to present your testimony. Please stay calm and confine your remarks to the 12A amendment. And Ms. Finn, thank you also for taking some time here. As Representative Steer pointed out, this has been a long discussion, so consider most of the members extremely familiar with the situation. Mr. Rice, if you could please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brian Rice. I'm an attorney in Minneapolis, Rice, Walther, and Mosley. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the Minnesota professional firefighters. I've been in contact with our president, Scott Badness, even all today and throughout this meeting. Thank you, Senator Seeberger, for bringing this amendment forward. This has been the product of work throughout the session. And thank you, Senator Frentz, Representative O'Driscoll, every member on this commission for the pension target. It is hugely significant. It's over $1 billion that you've committed to these funds, and it is truly amazing. It's helping police and fire and teachers. And when we came to the legislature asking, we meaning the fire, also working with the police in joint meetings with many of you, asking for this COLA improvement, we were told early on, January and February, fix the problem with duty disability pensions. Members, there is a hole in the roof, metaphorically, of the PRA police and fire pension, and it's reining in we have the single highest duty disability rate in the country by a factor of 4. If you went to Wisconsin next door, their normal cost percentage is 2%. The PRA Police and Fire Fund is at 8.5% and accelerating. And you talked a lot tonight, very eloquently, about 0.3% in the teacher's plan and how that's risky. We are talking about 865 tenths of basis points. This is a crisis. And we have a solution, or at least a step forward solution. Senator Seeberger, you outlined it. I could walk through page by page, but it's too late, and I've been accused of getting paid by the word, so I won't. It grandfathers in age 65 at line 2.2. So anyone who's got this benefit now will stay at age 65. On 2.28, it going forward prospectively for duty disability only, regular duty disability, it will be 60 months. But for anyone who has permanent total disability, it will stay at age 65. And on page 3.2, this is really significant because we have some troopers here. The troopers are not touched. The troopers are not touched, and the troopers asked not to be touched by this amendment. So let's be clear on that, why they don't have a duty disability problem. Their normal cost for their disabilities is 2%, which is the national average. We're at 8.5%. And it's largely because the section of law we're talking about, 299A, 465, I wrote that provision over 30 years ago when we were trying to help police officers and firefighters who were 48, 49, couldn't continue the job, couldn't make it to normal retirement age at 50. We needed to be compassionate and do something. The average age coming into these disabilities now is 40. And we're having some people go out at 28 years old on a duty disability that's going to last age 65 at 60% of salary. It's not sustainable. And then lastly, at least in the first, really the guts of the bill is the first 3 pages. There's a very important provision at 3.15 that no officer or firefighter, it's a use it or lose it provision. You get 60 months of health care or you can waive it. But what you can't do, and what Chief Steer knows and his other chiefs know, is that frequently this benefit gets monetized. In a settlement on a workers' comp claim, the attorneys will work with the cities and say, okay, we're not going to pay you to 65, but will you take on average $140,000 cash upfront settlement? It's a pretty inviting, inducing benefit. Duty disability, tax-free, healthcare to 65, and it's pretty good. And I wrote that. I never thought 30 years ago I'd be at this table saying we got to change it, but honestly, members, you do. And most importantly, is a concession the city's made, and this was difficult on 3.23, paragraph I. These numbers changed a little bit. There will be no appeal. Once the para board makes a determination, you go and you get the disability, because what else has happened is once para said there's a disability, the lawyers show up, and I'm a lawyer, and they show up and they fight about it and they challenge it and they jockey back and forth. And so that was a big concession there. I think Ms. Finn could talk about the other provisions that were things that came about as a work group between the police, fire, cities, counties, that at the league convention that were basically cleanups to the 2023 duty disability law, which this legislature, and I will get a little elevated, 2 years ago, you put $106 million in one-time money to fix this problem. And I have to represent to you, members of this pension commission, that solution so far has not proven to be a fix. We've had 87 members go through the protocol of full-time treatment, and we've had exactly 5 come back to work.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. I really appreciate your testimony. We're going to go next to Ms. Finn. Ms. Finn, if you could introduce yourself and present your testimony on behalf of the cities. And we're going to have one more witness, Mr. Titus from MPPOA. And then
Good
we'll go to
evening.
member questions.
Mr. Chair and members, my name is Ann Finn. I represent the League of Minnesota Cities. I want to thank Senator Seeberger for offering this amendment, but also thank each member of this commission who was available today to talk with us and hear more about this issue. And thank you to staff for helping draft this amendment that had a lot of moving parts. As Mr. Rice said, this amendment builds off of the important work that this commission did in 2023. Currently, as you heard from Mr. Doug Anderson from PERA,
previously this session, the para-police and fire plan is funded at a ratio of 87%. That's very poor, and it's something that we need to address. The path to restoring the health of the plan is to reduce the number of duty disabled employees. We've heard that repeatedly. This amendment attempts to do just that by reducing a benefit that makes getting a duty disability determination very attractive. That is the continued health insurance until age 65. We believe this amendment is very fair. It's a measure that caps benefits at 60 months for regular duty disabled employees and protects both those who have been approved for a duty disability to date, as well as totally and permanently disabled employees in the future. It also takes away the ability to take a settlement in lieu of the benefit. And you heard that is problematic. These large settlements were never envisioned when the current law was drafted. There is a lot more to say here. I know it's late, and I want to just offer that this is a critical provision to the bill that you're considering tonight, and I will stand for any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Finn. As I mentioned, members, we're gonna have one more testifier from MPPOA, Mr. Dave Titus, and then we'll go to member questions and comments. Mr. Titus, nice to see you again. Welcome back to LCPR. If you could please introduce yourself and give any testimony you want to the Seeberger Amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I will keep this very short. I am David Titus. I am the Deputy Director of the MPPOA. It is no secret that we worked on this amendment with most of you, or many of you, and I appreciate all the effort and all the attention that you gave to this. There are good aspects in this amendment, but where it fell short bubbled up within our organization overnight into this morning, which ultimately led to a board vote of opposition. And so I am here to relay that the MPPA does oppose this bill. And here is the one thing, there are a few, the one thing that the board could not get over. The moment where we have a member that is a duty disability, but not permanent and total, but can't work a full work week. Like a COVID example, where a member only can now, because of complications of COVID, left on duty disability, is only able to work part-time. And now they have to figure out a way to pay for their health insurance above and beyond when they're after the 60 months in this plan. Or let's just say it's an individual who blows out their back or an individual who blows out their ankle. This is an aspect of this amendment that our board could not overcome. And that is the reason why we are opposing it. If this group decides to pass this amendment, we have to keep that in our mind and we have to find a solution in the future. But I believe that we have to share the fact that we do oppose the bill due to that measure.
Thank you, Mr. Titus. Members, we're going to conclude the live testimony. It's a lot of live testimony for a hearing that posted no live testimony. I want to thank all the testifiers to the Seeberger Amendment. Do members have questions, comments, or concerns to the amendment? Representative Nadeau.
Can Mr. Titus come back up?
I bet you he can. Representative Nadeau.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Titus, MPPOA, they supported this bill, they worked on this bill, and then and can you just give me a little bit more information of how you got to that point where, I mean, I think your concerns are valid. I mean, in some of those cases where you've got a temporary or a longer term, disability that's not a full disability that falls through the cracks. But can you give me a little bit better understanding of how the board changed its mind? It supported this and then it stopped. And what did we learn along the way? That's my question.
Representative Nadeau, thank you. Mr. Titus.
Chair, Representative, all I can share with you is there were correspondence going around questioning the language of this amendment. That led to a debate, which led to greater debate within our association, and then that got to the board. The president, rightfully so, shared a number of emails that were bouncing around between our members and our board members and called a meeting, rightfully so, with the information that they were receiving and the concerns. That led to a very healthy debate this morning. We called it, did it as swiftly as we could in the morning because we believed or suspected that this would be coming up at this commission hearing. And that led to a vote of opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Titus. Representative Nadeau.
And thank you, thank you. Just my final, and you mentioned in your opening comments that if we do pass this, I mean, it's something that you guys need to work on. And do you think that it's possible to find a solution to this problem that where the board doesn't support it? Do you think there's a solution moving forward?
Mr. Titus.
Chair, Representative, you would know better than me. I would just say this, and I emphasize this, that if that is the road that this commission decides to go, it would swiftly have to be researched and solutions made because we're on a timeline, right? The clock will be ticking. As it stands today, the board is nervous, and that's why they oppose the 60 months due to the exact example that I gave you.
Thank you, Mr.
We don't want
Titus.
to see somebody falling through the cracks.
Representative Nadeau. Members, I did have someone reach out to me to make this point. We are talking about the public service of these men and women who keep us safe. There is a question whether or not we could provide an option after 5 years for a buying into healthcare. That is not before the LCPR today, but it is something I thought was worth mentioning. And for those that have that question and the point about working on it, I think that's fair to point out. With that, we're going to go to Senator Seeberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Mr. Titus and the rest of the MPPOA, you have my commitment to continue to work on this. I sense the urgency, both with respect to the plan itself and the needs of our law enforcement partners. I'm about to have a whole lot more time on my hands here in a week or so, and we'll be happy to do whatever it takes to come up with something that works for your members.
Thank you, Senator Seeberger. Thank you, members. Obviously, a critical topic we've been working on for years. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of adopting the 12A amendment, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. I'm going to ask the House members to go through division. The chair is uncertain. If you support the A12 amendment, raise your hand. If you oppose the A12 amendment, please raise your hand. With that division and with the clarification of the votes, the A12 amendment is adopted. Members, the last item is that we would like a motion to approve the staff to make any necessary technical questions. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to offer the A14 amendment and happy to.
Senator Rasmussen
Speak to it.
offers the A14 amendment. Does this need to be handed out, Senator Rasmussen? I don't believe you provided the chair a copy. All right, members have apparently received a copy of the A14. Senator Rasmussen to the A14.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what the A14 does is it preserves supplemental state aid into all of our statewide plans that currently receive it. I think one of the issues that we're running into is that we have effectively blink offs for when funds are fully funded or they hit 100% or different thresholds. This would simply take a look at those funds that we have, and it would move them to 110% so that we'd preserve that coming in. Because it's not forecasted in the budget forecast that any of those dollars blink off, there isn't a fiscal cost, but it preserves flexibility for this commission going forward so that we don't have plans that feel the pressure to spend down as they get closer to 100%. But Mr. Chair would also turn it over to Ms. Linczewski to fill in any details.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. We'll ask Ms. Linchewski for a review or Ms. Wilson.
I don't have anything to add except to say that this does affect both the direct state aid that is being sort of contributed directly into the plans, as well as supplemental employer contributions. So it's both. And I think pretty much all of the plans benefit from this. So this will increase the likelihood that they will be able to continue collecting state aid and supplemental employer contributions.
Thanks, Ms. Linchewski. The chair has a question, but let's go to Representative O'Driscoll first. Senator Rasmussen, have you shared this with MMB and have they offered any support for it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I have not shared with MMB, but if they want to provide any comments, happy to.
Well, I think we'll probably vote before we get any MMB comments. Have any of the plans seen this, Senator Rasmussen? And if they have seen it, have they offered support for it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have talked with plans about various blink offs, but I haven't shared this exact language with them.
All right. And is there any written testimony of any stakeholders before LCPR who have offered support for this amendment?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Senator. We're going to go to Representative O'Driscoll.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to comment. You had asked if I was aware of it. Yes, I am aware of the concept. This is something that was discussed, not maybe real directly in the commission, but there certainly was discussion around the concept of making sure that with as volatile as markets can be, a plan that became funded to the level that the subsidies were coming from the general fund to help with this, that if it just popped up 1 year, point in time, dropped down, the funding would go away. This simply just puts a smoothing in there. That says we have to see a pattern, a track record of that staying funded before that aid would go away, because when the aid goes away, we have to go through, get targets, have discussions, how we're going to spend money. And many of you probably recall that discussion tonight, because that's part of what the Pension Commission would end up having to do. And I think this is deep enough in the tails that it's probably not a problem. Senate Finance and House Ways and Means will probably weigh in on this, but it's in what we call the dark tails, which means it would be out because none of these plans are near those funding levels. Just some background for the commission.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. That actually helps inform the chair. I think the chair is inclined to support the amendment. Are there further member comments to the A14? Seeing none, Senator Senator Westland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 9 o'clock at night. I'm just going to say this. As a person who's been on this commission for a year, it's very difficult for me to get a piece of paper at this time of night. I appreciate the explanation. That made some sense to me. People who know me know that I don't like doing things on the fly. And if this is something that was super important to you, it would have been really helpful to me to get this before tonight. I appreciate the chair saying you're going to support it. I'm not going to support it just on a matter of process. This has been a really frustrating meeting, and I have kept my mouth shut most of the meeting and most meetings. I am a process girl, and the process tonight has been very unsatisfactory to me. And I would love to hear more about this, but I'd like it if you'd talk to me about it and explain to me why this is good, because I'm not going to vote for it tonight at 9 o'clock when I get this and have 2 minutes to think about it.
Thank you, Senator Westland. We'll go to Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if this amendment doesn't go on, my amendment will follow. But this amendment is better than mine, so I hope this one goes on. I do believe that this is an important piece. We have some plans that blink off at 100%. We have some plans that blink off at 90%, not consistent. This would make it the same across all plans, and it would ensure that they don't spin down just in a rush not to get that supplemental funding. So I think it's a great piece of legislation, and I support it.
Senator Howe, member comments, further comments, that is, to the A14. Senator Westland.
Since we've been having testimony today and we have some plan folks in here, I would be curious if any one of them would like to come up and weigh in on this and give me some guidance about whether this is a good idea or not.
Fair enough, Senator Westland. I see Ms. Strengy, Mr. Anderson. My view is blocked. Mr. Mauer, we're looking for someone from Mr. Anderson, thank you for coming back up. I think Senator Westland's asking if you have anything to share with the LCPR members on the A14.
Mr. Chair, Senator Westland, this would, for para, this would only impact the police and fire plan. That's the only one that has state aid that has some triggers. That plan is currently 90% funded and not expected to reach these levels for quite some time. Certainly it would be beneficial to the plan to have the aid extended, but our board has no specific position on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Senator Westland, any further follow-up? All right, members, any further comment to the A14? Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do want to apologize to, Senator Westland. I wish I would have had the opportunity to share this with members ahead of time. I have the jacket sitting on my desk. And this is an idea that a number of commission members have been talking about over the last few sessions. And I think simply preserves some of the funding capacity coming into these pension plans and avoids that cliff. And I think is definitely something that we can continue to address even next session as well. But I was just worried about us triggering in getting over 100% for some of these funds before we can meet again and potentially losing out on that state aid coming in.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. And as someone who was here in 2018 when we made the omnibus pension bill and the big shared sacrifice that Senator Rosen shared, just the fact that we're talking about 100% is a major improvement and a credit to everybody who served since then. With that and seeing no further commentary, all those in favor of adopting the A14 amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
No.
Again, I would like to ask the House LCPR members if they would go through a division. All those on the House side in favor of adopting the A14, please raise your hand.
No, I think we're on the 15.
14A.
Sorry.
If we could, to the amendment, the A14, all those on the House side in favor, please raise your hand. Counting two, all those opposed, please raise your hand. With that, the A14 is not adopted.
Mr. Chair, can you do the Senate as well?
Mr. Chair, if you counted me in that, I am a yes. I was taking care of some other stuff here. It's a very busy time of year.
It is. Thank you, Representative Driscoll. I did count 5-2, so that even with a change, we would not have enough votes to carry the A14 on the House side. I'd be happy to do division on the Senate side, although I read it as supportive. Having said that, we're going to go back to Senator Rasmussen, Senator Rasmussen's good. Members, any further commentary to that? I would like someone to bring a motion allowing the staff to make any necessary technical corrections.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Pappas did move to allow the staff to make technical corrections. We'll go after that motion to Senator Howe before we move to close the bill. So Senator Pappas moves that we allow the staff to make any necessary technical corrections. Any commentary to that? Hearing none. All those in favor of giving that staff the authorization on the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That motion is adopted. Senator Howe.
Mr. Chair, I don't know what the number of the amendment is. I hope I have that amendment to go to 100%. If staff did it, I'm not quite sure if they drafted it, that we had the one, we didn't draft it. That's all right. Mr. Chair, we'll bring this on the floor and we'll see what happens there. Thank you, Mr.
Fair enough, Senator Howe. Members, with that, the agenda is completed and would ask for a motion that Senate File 2884, House File 1889, as amended, be recommended as the 2025 Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill and be forwarded to the House and Senate Committees of Jurisdiction. Representative Wolgamott, thank you for that motion. Discussion to that motion. All those, Representative O'Driscoll.
I don't know if you want to take it now, but I do want to talk about a procedural question based on a comment that was made just moments ago.
Be happy to take that now. Representative Wolgamott, your motion is still before the LCPR. Representative O'Driscoll.
Traditionally, because this commission does really good work together and we really have never put amendments on the floor in the Senate or the House unless they've been agreed upon by the commission. And vetted out by the commission. So I'm just wondering if there's a policy change now or direction change of what we'd be looking at, because that would clearly force a conference committee. And just wanting to know where we are at, and in part, there were some things that went on that may cause some additional amendments to come forward, and we're hearing those. And so I'm just wanting to know what the ground rules are as members prepare, because we do have a 24-hour rule in the House. We may not be able to get to that point. So if the Senate's going to be offering amendments and the House isn't, I need to properly prepare my folks for what the expectation is and the disadvantage they may be at.
Thank you, Representative. Just it's an excellent point, an observation for all members to consider as we vote on the bill, and also to consider 5 minutes after this hearing is adjourned. Senator Howe, you have the ability to do anything you choose as a member. I think what Representative O'Driscoll is saying is, do we have a policy here? I certainly don't have the power to tell any member what they might or might not do in Ways and Means or Finance or on the floor, and you're correct. If there was an amendment adopted on the floor that has implications. Having said that, I don't think that means that the LCPR can't take action on the bill itself now. And Senator Howe, if you want to make a comment, that would be fine.
Well, Mr. Chair, I had anticipated to have an amendment. I thought it was drafted just in case Senator Rasmussen's, I think, very appropriate amendment did not make it. So I'm a little disappointed in that we don't have it here. I could do an oral amendment to this one. Wouldn't change it a whole lot. It would just change the 110% to 100%. But my concern is the MSRS State Patrol Plan has been at 90%. And they are one of the other pension plans that's sitting at 90%. They're going to hit that 3 years. And so they won't get the supplemental fund. So I believe it's imperative that we do something to ensure that, you know, we don't punish a plan for being successful. And that's basically what we're going to do. And that was the intent of this amendment. I love to see it reconsidered and passed tonight. Either that or we're going to end up with one on the floor, and I'll make the pitch there. And we may end up with a problem with a difference between the two. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Howe. I'm talking with staff who thinks it may be possible for us members to address this in a brief oral amendment. And without prejudicing members of the LCPR, if you have a moment, Senator Howe, I think staff would be able to accomplish the same purposes if the amendment would have been drafted. If you just give us 1 second, Senator Howe, would I be correct that it would be your intention to offer an oral amendment to that effect?
Absolutely,
All
Mr.
right,
Chair.
members, just a few seconds here.
We can discuss it.
It is.
Oh, got it. Yeah, got it. Yeah, I just.
Are you almost done with commerce?
I'm going to some question to have you changed to the chief. Sure. To keep this ability long, that's what could have been required.
All right, members, I think we've located the how language. So Senator Howe, what we're going to do is have staff read it as an oral amendment. It does come from your bill that was introduced. Senator Howe, as I was saying, we're going to have staff read off what I believe is your intention on an oral amendment. And with that, we'll go to Ms. Lencheski. It is taken from your bill,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
or perhaps Ms. Wilson.
So,
Senator Howe, just one more second, please. All right. Senator Howe, when I say a couple seconds, I mean a few minutes. Just 1 second. We're almost there.
It's Senate seconds. I get it.
No. I can read it out here. I don't care.
All right. Senator Howe, thank you very much for your patience. As I said, Senator, thank you for your patience. I believe Ms. Wilson will be reading it off, and then you'll have an opportunity to confirm that's the language that you want. All right, Senator Howe, we're going to print it off just to make sure we have no haste making waste. Staff is running upstairs to the nearest printer provided by the House of Representatives. So we're probably looking at a 60 to 90-second non-recess. Hang on a sec while we print off this final amendment of the evening. Thank you for your patience, members. We asked if an oral amendment would be preferable, but they wanted to print it. We're going to have Senator Howe maybe take us off the hook there.
So, Mr. Chair,
Senator Howe.
Mr. Chair, I will publicly admit I was wrong and I shouldn't have said what I said. I was completely wrong with the state trooper and theirs, but it is police fire. It is the police fire account and it is currently at 90%. And the police fire account, we want to take, so they don't lose it until they get 100%. That would be my amendment. That's the
Thank you,
gist of
Senator
it.
Howe. Again, staff is off getting a printed copy. We're going to go while we're waiting for that to Senator Westland.
Mr. Chair, after consulting with some of our pension folks over there, I said, give me your 30-second speech. Why is this good? Why is this bad? So I have a solution here that doesn't require people to run down here.
Senator
Based
West-
on the additional information I was able to get from other pension people, I would move to reconsider the prior amendment. The A14,
Senator Westland moves to reconsider the vote on the A14
I
amendment.
was on the prevailing side, all that fancy
All
stuff.
those in favor of the motion to reconsider, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Senator Westland's motion to reconsider is adopted. With that, we're now back on the A14. Members, any comment, questions, or concerns? We're now voting on the A14. All in favor of adopting the A14 indicate by saying aye. All opposed, say nay. That motion prevails and the A14 is adopted. I believe we have solved that problem. However, we have one tiny matter before us, which is the motion of Senator Pappas. Senator Pappas moves Senate File 2884 and House File 1889 as amended be recommended as the 2025 Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill, and this recommendation be forwarded to the House and Senate Committees of Jurisdiction. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the bill is passed. Members, we could spend some time saying thank yous. We're going to go to Senator Rasmussen for a comment here in a minute, but first of all, I want to say thanks again to our outstanding nonpartisan staff. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, Ms. Lincheski, and Ms. Dieslin. Thank you to the House members. Thank you to the Senate members. Thank you to the people who showed incredible patience here tonight. I believe the omnibus bill is a huge success, and that public safety and educators in particular are going to say thank you to each and every member on this commission. I would normally offer to go to the ranking members of Driscoll, Lilly, and Howe, but I don't have to, and I have to admit Senator Rasmussen raised his hand. Senator Rasmussen, you're good. Representative O'Driscoll, Representative Lilly, any comments before we adjourn for the year?
Thank you. And we've got a lot of work done. Some of us still have plenty of work yet ahead of us tonight. So thank you for everyone.
Thank you, Representative
Mr.
O'Driscoll.
Chairman?
I was going to go to Representative Lilly, but we'll go to Senator Pappas and then Representative Lilly. Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, just a question about any plans for interim hearings, because Pension Commission often does that in a non-election year.
I would certainly like to, Senator Pappas, but I admit we have not planned anything in particular. And I know Mrs. Frentz says I'm going to need a couple days off once
Yeah.
we get out of here. So June, July would be a time for us to see if we can get back together. And that's an excellent point, Senator
There's, if
Pappas.
we need to.
Thank you. Representative Lilly.
Just briefly, I think you covered a lot of it and thanking staff, but, and thank you to the members, but I want to offer a thank you to Representative Driscoll. He's helped me navigate and learn in this space. You know, I'm a seasoned legislator, but I'm new in this space. So, again, thank you to all the members. And I think we all can be really proud of this work. This product's really exciting. So.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Representative
Mr. Chair.
Lilly. And I thought we might also say thanks to our partisan staff. We have great nonpartisan staff, but we also have outstanding partisan staff from all four caucuses. So thank you to the staff. No bow necessary, but appreciate the work. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.